That's interesting. It's not playing the video. connected, but I don't see a camera yet, comma. And will you be sharing the screen output of the keyboard? Question mark. Oh, now I see a camera. Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for being here. My name is Anthony Barocas. I am here for the BirdDog live session. I will ask my compatriot Cameron if he can hear me, because he will be joining me in a minute, and I see him nodding and giving me a thumbs up. So thank you very much for that. The magical thing with live cloud production is you don't get to hear your own voice in your headset so that you know you're making it in. That's one of the real challenges with cloud production. And as I'm sure the audience for today's show, which is already quite sizable, will admit that they understand. Randy Braun says, and we're live. Yes, we are. So welcome everyone to today's show. And a reminder, this is a live show. If you are here during the live show, you have the added, I'm queuing the next thing up. You have the added advantage that you get to ask questions and put them in the comments. And while we're doing this, we will answer your questions. So this is like a live Q&A, talk to, it's like that little chat thing in the bottom corner, except it's a real person. It's two real people and not an AI bot that's going to give you the wrong answer that you don't want. So that's one of the magical things about being here for the live show. You get to post questions in the comments. So feel free to do that, everyone. And then also, because you are here for the live show, you get a chance to win. Every show, BirdDog is giving away a 1-year BirdDog Connect subscription. You can either type in bit.ly BirdDog entry and go to the entry form, or if you're watching this on the computer, you can scan this QR code with your phone or other device, and that will take you to an entry form. And on the entry form, you fill out your name, your email address, and some other information. We've got a couple marketing questions in there just to find out like what gear you might have, what do you want to see us make. Feel free to tell us what, if there's a dream product that you want us, this is your chance, throw it in there. But this is your entry form to win 1 year of BirdDog Connect. And I will say, if you don't know what Connect is, you are missing out. Dan was on here. You can look back at the live shows from a couple weeks ago. Dan was on here and he did a walkthrough of Connect, and it was so deep. He was only able to briefly touch on several things. Oh, and this is where you can build like live shows. There's a bunch of things and multi-views. Okay, that's that. And and we went on. So we are definitely looking at having a second deep dive into Connect. It is super, super powerful, very deep. But easy enough to wrap your mind around once you start opening up the door. So feel free to sign on that. Andreas says, hello from Greece. Thank you very much for tuning in from Greece. And as always, wherever you might be, feel free to chime in from where you're watching, because we do this show at this particular time so that if you're in Europe, it's not too late. If you're in the US, it's kind of prime time. And, when we have people from BirdDog in Australia on live, it's not too crack of the dawn early, although I've been told it's before the sun comes up. So thank you very much to the BirdDog team for joining us when we do live shows, and they are the remote guests. So again, this is the entry form. I've been deliberately leaving this up here so that people can enter to win. And let me go check the Google form. Yes, I have one entry so far. So Matt, you have a 100% chance of winning so far. As soon as somebody else enters, you have less than a 100% chance. But Matt, if the drawing was held right now, Matt would win. But I guess in a couple more seconds, that's no longer going to be the case. But that's the magic of a live show. So feel free to enter to win the contest. And I will try and find my cursor. There it is. I've got multiple screens, so I'm moving my cursor around on multiple screens. So we will draw this at the end of the show. And then after the show, nobody else gets to enter, nobody else gets a chance. So if you are interested in getting 1 year BirdDog Connect and you don't even know how to use it, you have a whole year to figure out, and it doesn't even cost you anything. So I cannot overstate how cool this is. So feel free to go after that. Going right into the news, the X5 wins a Red Dot Award. And Red Dot is about design and product design, industrial design, and to get an award. Wait, I think I have one right here. Look at that. It's probably backwards view. Yeah, it's backwards view. The X5 wins a Red Dot Award. So entries from 60 countries. There's 43 international judges from around the world. They judge what products have just elegance and design, function, and the X5 is now to be included in that award. So very cool. And I'm happy to have an X5 here in the studio. Great camera. And as you can see, it's got the e-ink display. Actually, I should move it down here. The e-ink display on both sides. Don't move it with the motor like that. And it's clean on the back, and I'm powering it over NDI. And so the X5 has won a Red Dot Award. So we are very proud of having that added to our recognitions. It's not just designing a good product, but it's a good product that actually looks nice and has a certain ethos to it. So moving on, we're going to do the ultimate keyboard, or KBD. I say keyboard. KBD deep dive. And I have a guest from Cameron Boyce, who's a sales engineer for BirdDog. And without further ado, I am actually just going to bring Cameron on right here. There you go, Cameron.
Hello.
Thank you very much for being here. Let's see if I can do this. There we go.
Look at that.
And it might crop some of the stuff, but yeah, we'll go through it anyway. So this keyboard, this is the second round of the keyboard for BirdDog. And I guess we can call this Keyboard 2.0 because it's BirdDog 2.0, right?
Exactly.
And so what are the key standout features that people need to know about for this thing?
Yeah, so as you saw in that slide, obviously it kind of conforms to the AI auto tracking and that feature that we've added not only to this, but also to all of our cameras. So having the ability to toggle that on and off is super nice. The main thing you'll notice that's a huge difference from our old piece of hardware is that giant screen on the front. That screen's going to do a few things. One, give you an image of your camera. Two, give you a multi-view of up to 4 cameras. And then third, allow you to change all of your settings. So just from an installer perspective or an operator perspective, having the ability to change settings like network and things like that, all from the hardware. No web UI needed for that. Super helpful.
Definitely. And I know it also, in terms of production, helps eliminate table clutter because you don't have to have like other stuff in front of you if you could easily just have it built in like that.
Oh, absolutely. There's no need now for that external monitor. I mean, from a table clutter's perspective, I've got 3 right now, so having to add a 4th for that would just be a nightmare. So having that right here and that view is super helpful.
Exactly, exactly. I know, and I'm right there with you. You know, I got the program monitor. I've got my laptop monitor, which we're pulling this content from my laptop and everything. And so yeah, those monitors add up. And anybody who's been in production knows what a table full of gear really means. So when you need to like, oh, here's the controller, and not having to like part the water to get another monitor in there, really does pay off, I think.
Yeah, it really just cleans up the whole workflow. Just what we've been going for with this whole new BirdDog 2.0 is making that end user experience that much better. So I think it's a big step in that.
All right. And in terms of the list of features that this thing has, I think definitely like the first thing people are going to notice. Let me go back to the first thing people are going to notice is the huge like area for your hand. That the first one, it had a little space, but it was like up in the air, and your hand didn't really have a place to go. This one is sort of like, hey, we put in a wrist rest and a pad, for your hand.
Yeah, that space is significant. It really does make operating a whole lot more comfortable. I've done a few shoots on the old one, and it works great. But having something where I can rest my hand now at all times means it doesn't start cramping after 20 minutes. I can do multiple hours and feel just as comfortable as I did at the start.
And I think Dan, when we talked about it, early on, it was one of our first shows. Dan also mentioned that it's zoom sensitive. So as a camera is zoomed in all the way, the balance of your tilt and your zoom changes a little bit, so that you're still going to be able to move it very delicately. And having that, where your hand is just like right there and just able to move and not have to keep going up to it, really does pay off. Like you said, for long events where you're operating cameras or multiple cameras over a long period of time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing that plays into that is the ability to toggle on what we call superfine control. So what that'll do is take it down to 1/10 of the PTZ speed you're set at. And I know we were just talking X5 right at the beginning of the show. That has the best motor we've put into a PTZ. So bringing that down to 1/10, you are getting the smoothest movement. I've been on shows where we toggle that on fully zoomed in. The camera doesn't even look like it's moving from a hardware perspective. The image is just crawling. So super fine, precise movement. Super nice to have.
And honestly, that's what you need, because I know people have been asking about the zoom range, and these are all 20x cameras, not the 30x from the previous generation. But still, the ability is there to be super tight all the way across, a ballroom or whatever. And when you are that close and you need to just, somebody comes in and you just need a little bit more headroom and you just want to inch it up just a little, you don't want it to move in a very perceptible way. You don't want it to just jerk up. You want to just, let me just fix the shot so that nobody actually notices it's being fixed.
Just small tweaks that, sometimes are difficult when you're zoomed into something 100 feet away. Now, just that precise movement really just adds a level of professionalism to certain productions.
Exactly. And so tell me about these buttons that feel like buttons. What's the difference?
Yeah, so if you've used our old controller, pressing that button was almost like a guessing game. You press it, you press it hard enough where you were pretty sure it was selected, but there was no tactile feel that said, yep, you've got that. Now you even get a little click to it. It really is like when you build out a keyboard for your PC and you get that nice tactile feel on a click of a button. So there's no guessing game now. You know exactly when something's selected. You get a nice audio and tactile feel, and just gives you a little more confidence when using the hardware.
That's kind of like the difference between broadcast video switchers with the definitive keys. Where you push it down and then it's got a set where it's like now you've executed that thing. Whereas a lot of the software, I want to say software switchers, but with the soft silicone buttons, you don't know exactly where now is. It's somewhere on the way down.
It's there somewhere, and now we know exactly where that spot is.
Right. And I think a lot of people who are doing, especially like in sports, you need to know you've executed go to 2, go to 3, exactly at that point in time.
Yeah, there's no guessing space there. So you have to be 100% sure of your choices and movement. And we made that a little bit easier on the end user.
And there's an NDI router. So tell us a little bit about, because it can be powered over NDI and it's controlling devices over NDI. So we're talking, this is taking the video feeds over NDI. It's like a single cable NDI device for all of the things that it does.
100%. What you're seeing right now for my webcam is the NDI router. So if I select a different camera, we should see that switch to that one as well. So I can zoom in, play around with this X5, move around my office. And then if I want to bring back my webcam, I can still do that and keep it on that selected router. So I'm not trying to change my webcam source or play around with that kind of stuff. Nice and easy.
Definitely. And then tell us about these RESTful API controls.
Yeah, so you can really bring in a whole lot of different API commands to your KBD in terms of switching and different settings and things like that. So you have API control as well built into this hardware.
Awesome. And I was looking at this chart, as part of the slides for, to explain just, overarching, and then we'll get to everyone's questions. I see questions coming in, and again, if you joined the stream late, feel free to throw your questions into the comments because this is a live show. We're going to tackle as many of them as we can. I'm going to say Cameron's going to be like, the go-to person for like most of the answers. So I hope you're prepared. I hope you're all warmed up. But right here, this was very interesting in that, you've got your NDI network, but then there's a separate network to the right, the RS-232, and where the cameras are still doing traditional SDI and HDMI, but the KBD is doing VISCA or RS-232 for control. And is it able to do those at the same time as NDI?
Yeah, so you have that as a separate output on the back. So if I have my hardware here, I can show you. We have our VISCA, our RS-232 422 connection, so you can choose that as well. So you have multiple control options. You also have via the RJ45 port, you can also do ONVIF and VISCA. VISCA just being another IP protocol, and then ONVIF is that specific security-based protocol. So you can control security-based cameras here. So you're not limited to the NDI workflow. You can move into security cameras and things like that as well, if that's something you're a little more familiar with.
or it's a whole series of cameras you may have access to. Exactly. that you wanna be able to like integrate into the system. So it's not just for NDI broadcast.
Exactly. It really opens you up to a whole bunch of workflows and a whole bunch of different cameras that are out there. So it's not limiting you to one workflow. It's giving you access to all of them.
Now, also, when we talk about the NDI router, now, what is it routing and where does it route it to?
So it's going to take any camera that the keyboard sees, and when you select that keyboard, it's going to send it out as an NDI source. So wherever you can access your NDI sources, whether that's NDI webcam, which is what I'm using to broadcast in here, if you're bringing things into vMix or other software, wherever you have access to those sources, you'll have access to the router. So it's just going to show up as KBD. You can select that, and then it's going to show you exactly what the KBD itself is seeing.
Okay. And that's going to be the full signal, because I know on screen it's bringing in the low bitrate preview, right?
Yep. You'll get it's going to give you a full quality.
And I think that's one thing I think Dan and I touched on as well, is that you could be controlling 4K cameras with this, or 5, or how many cameras total?
A lot more than 5. You can control, so it's going to be just on the IP range, so you can go up to 255 cameras. You have presets for 6, and then from there on, it's the world's your oyster. You can go as many as needed.
Okay, I think what I was getting at is the preview on screen.
Yes.
You can have 4 4K cameras showing up, but you're not pulling the 4K feed, you're pulling the preview. Exactly. So you're able to control 4K production of 4K cameras, but you can still do that with a single gigabit switch connection to the keyboard. Absolutely. Because it's pulling the low bandwidth, the preview versions. You're not trying to pull 4 4K screens across the network into the KBD.
Exactly. It's going to give you a lower res, kind of a just down res version of that. So you get an idea of what your frame looks like, but you're not trying to pull in this super high end broadcast ready feed. So it's not going to really bog down your bandwidth at
Then,
all.
right, right. So it just trying to say that it's very lightweight in terms of the bandwidth. You're not adding four more 4K
Yeah,
feeds traveling across the network by adding the KBD.
exactly.
And then the KBD is also available in these bundles. Can you tell us about the bundles?
Yeah, so we have two things here. We got bundles and combos. So there's a little bit of a differentiation here. Bundles are going to be with your X1 and X1 Ultra. So those are going to come with 3 cameras and a KBD, as well as a hard foam case for travel, which is really nice to store the cameras, the KBD itself, and then also some extra wires and things like that. That's going to come with the KBD at a significant discount. You can see those numbers right here on the screen. Our combos are a little bit different. You're going to lose that foam case, but what you're gaining is a completely free controller. So that controller comes at no cost to you, 3 cameras and control, all for the price of just those cameras themselves. Really nice when you're trying to up to a full 3 camera production, having that controller come in for free as well.
Right, and I think the key thing is these are the new X series cameras, the X4
Correct.
X4 Ultra, the X5 Ultra. So if you've got the older cameras and you're looking at stepping up, and you want like that super fine, long zoom capability that we just talked about with the X5 Ultra, if you want, yes, that's what we need in the church, for following somebody, up at the altar or something like that. We need to step up. We're going to, replace our existing cameras with a new sweep of cameras. Then, hey, you get the new keyboard controller for free.
Yeah, there's no problem with that. Yeah, so we've seen a lot of people, especially in that house of worship, wanting that auto tracking and things like that. So upgrading the cameras and then also wanting to be able to control those. Now you're getting that KBD for free or for a discount. It just makes it a whole lot easier to upgrade your entire setup rather than maybe 1 camera at a time. So really gives you the whole range.
All right. So let me move from that. Zoop, there we go. And we've had a bunch of questions come in. And as always, I remember everyone, if you have questions, post them in the comments. We've got live expert help here today. This is not AI. This is really, he's really here. And also, before I forget, I think this is it. If you're late to the, because I see the count on my screen keeps going up. If you are late to the show, I already put this up earlier. Please sign. This is your chance to enter to win a 1-year BirdDog Connect subscription. So you can go to bit.ly, BirdDog entry, BD entry, or just use if you're watching this on a computer, take out your phone and point it at this little QR code. It'll take you to the same exact destination. It's an entry form. You put in your name, your email address, and then put in your email address again because you typed it wrong the first time. And then, you can tell us, what products you have. You can tell us what you would love to see BirdDog make in the future, what type of just awesome solution you would love to see them come out with. And Matt, I am afraid to reveal to you that you now only have 1/10 of a chance. You only have a 10% chance of winning. So a lot more entries have come in, but hey, we've got a lot more people watching than have entered. So, this is your chance. I'm going to leave that up there for a couple of seconds and bring a couple questions in here. All right. One of the questions is, hoping to catch the end of this. I will catch the replay. Please show the NDI router switching capability in depth. Can you route a different camera other than the selected one to the program?
So currently the way it's set up is the only camera you're going to see on the router is the one that is selected. So trying to show like camera 3 and control camera 4, at this time it's going to be showing the one you're selected on only.
Okay, that answers that question. Boop,
There
boop,
we
boop,
go.
boop. On-screen creation says, is there a button on the keyboard to disable autofocus rather than triggering near or far to disable the autofocus? It would really be handy to stop at focus hunting in tricky situations.
So right now, the best way to disable is going to be that near or far. The autofocus button is just going to enable it. When you do tap that focus far or near, it's not going to push in or out. It's really going to just stay where it was. So if you are trying to just turn it off quick and lock into where that autofocus was, that's probably the quickest way to do it.
So, just to clarify for somebody, it's like you've got it, you zoomed into something and you see it like doing a little bit of hunting. All you have to do is tap near or tap
Yeah.
a little further. It's not actually going to send it further. It's
Yeah.
just going to, the
In that
quick
moment.
tap.
Yep. Another way to do it is, so there's a button on the top of the joystick. You can actually configure that to your autofocus trigger. So if you prefer to do it that way and having another button assigned for autofocus, you can do that as well. That can be done right in the UI under your control settings.
Awesome. So 2 solutions. There you go.
Yep.
Is it possible to adjust the dead zone on the joystick?
Yeah, so that dead zone is there for a reason. We have it just in case you quickly knock into the joystick, and so you're not accidentally moving that camera unknowingly. What you can do is you can calibrate that joystick just to make sure it is properly centered. But that dead zone is there for a reason, so it can't be deleted or changed. But you can calibrate that joystick if needed.
All right. Let me, hopefully, yep, we got a couple more entries in, so I'm going to take this out. Here's a good one. If you connect the BirdDog X5s to a TriCaster via SDI, do you also need to run NDI to the cameras for keyboard control or KBD control?
Yes, you'll need to run some kind of
Something.
protocol. Yeah, it doesn't have to be NDI. We touched on VISCA and things like that. There's other protocols out there, but SDI isn't going to give you the control itself, so you'll have to choose one way or the other how you want to go about that.
Right. And, also to be honest, the TriCaster itself is an NDI device because the TriCaster was made by NewTek, who also invented NDI.
Exactly.
And so even if you connected SDI to a TriCaster and you were trying to do NDI directly from the TriCaster, it's not going to work over SDI. It's not, there's nothing else on there except the video data. So, as he says, whether it be, what is it, VISCA?
VISCA, yep.
Whether it be VISCA or NDI, one or the other, but then if you're running a cable, you might as well just run the NDI cable. That's just me.
There we go.
I have 3 different, okay, no, there's nothing. This is just just answering Randy. This is a straight open YouTube, and we're also on Facebook. So we're on YouTube and Facebook, and the Facebook page is open and public. So these are both open and public streams. Nothing should be flagged. Question regarding the older keyboards. Have you guys stopped updating the firmware on the older keyboards?
So I believe the last thing I heard was that there may be bug fixes here and there, but in terms of full, like bringing new features and things like that and large updates, I think those are completely done. And then I don't remember the exact date we're fully stopping support, but it either has passed or is coming up. So.
Okay. And just recently with the move to the X series, the first series of BirdDog converters, they were, end of life. We've moved on. Just because there's only so many engineering hours in the day. So,
Exactly.
in order to come out with new innovative products, we have to, let certain things from 5 years ago. Okay, they're done.
Yep.
They're as mature as they're going to be. Here's a good question. I kind of touched on this before. Can a camera work with ONVIF protocol like the Max?
So I can look quick to tell you specifically which cameras. I know that is something we're looking to bring to cameras. I don't believe it's on all of them yet. So possibly. There are a lot of cameras out there, like I said, for security that are already ONVIF specific. So those will obviously work with that protocol. But I would keep looking at the website and seeing what is currently listed as supported.
So that would be on the tech specs page for each of the cameras.
Yep.
All right. Another good question comes in. How can I focus check on the KBD if the preview is low res?
So I will say less low res, more low bandwidth. So you can still look at the screen and get a very good idea of what your focus looks like. Now, if you're trying to do super fine focus adjustments and you are really playing with like very small kind of changes, then I would always recommend having a larger high-end monitor available. Um, you're just limited to what the size is, unfortunately. So if you're really trying to be very specific and exact with focus, an external monitor is still something you can use. I could always use this program, this KBD router, through like a BirdDog Play onto a secondary monitor and look at it that way. But for most general focus adjustments, it's pretty high res still for what you get on this 5-inch screen.
And then also, as you were just talking about before, if you were to change the top button to an autofocus,
Yep.
you know, the cameras are going to try to make it as sharp as possible. So if you've got somebody standing at a podium clear across the room and you tap the thing autofocus on and back out, you know, so if somebody's standing back a little bit from the podium and the next person's leaning in, you know, and you need to like adjust the focus a little bit, just tapping it on and off may just be enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So that autofocus, it is pretty quick. It's been really, really effective. So just toggling that on, you should have no problems at all.
So, you know, basically telling the camera to do its job.
Exactly. That's why we like PTZs, as remote as possible.
Yes. All right. On-screen creation says the preset call option is great for recalling presets. To mark the beginning of a live show, is there an option to trigger starting preset with multiple cameras rather than clicking cam 1, cam 2? I guess we're saying to group things.
Group presets. Not at this point. It is presets are specific per camera. What it's doing when you recall those presets is recalling the NDI presets. So they're not stored just in the KBD. Those are going to be presets specific for the camera. So you can set those presets in things like Studio Monitor, in the actual UI themselves, and then recall them. It's not the KBD setting presets specifically, just allowing you to recall them.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's a really good point to make because the NDI presets are in the device. And so somebody else can set a preset in Studio Monitor, and then you could be on the keyboard and say go to 1, having never set it on the
Yep.
KBD, and it'll go to 1 that they set. So that's a really handy feature. To also answer this a little bit, somebody could use Companion and make one button do multiple things. So they can, you know, have a pre-show button and say, go back to pre-show, and that macro basically says item 1 go to 1, 2 go to 1, 3 go to 1, 4 go to 1, and all the cameras zip back to a different preset.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely solutions for those kind of presets and things like that.
But
So
it's
yeah,
not
like you said,
inherent
Companion.
in the KBD itself
Exactly.
at this point.
Yeah, not in KBD itself.
Can you showcase the NDI routing output to show latency and what you see in the NDI router versus on the keyboard KBD?
So, I mean, I don't have an audio delay on my microphone. So what you're seeing, I think it's about a frame or two. And that's what I'm seeing live on my preview up here. Looking at the KBD screen, it's unnoticeably different from what I'm seeing on the live stream that we have up here. So you're looking at 1 to 2 frames on that in terms of latency on the router. This is the router. This isn't specifically the camera that I'm using. Like I said, I can change over and we'll have another camera back here. So not changing the camera, just the router source.
All right. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Super James Levy from Barbados says, from how you've described the NDI router, it sounds like you could be using the KBD to switch and then just send the selected feed to Wirecast or vMix, which is kind of like what you're doing right here. You're using the KBD to switch what we're looking at from your feed.
Yeah, 100%. This is definitely a workflow you can use. So if you do want to just do simple hard cuts, this is something that is totally viable for that kind of setup. If you're looking for something with a little more transition control or things like that, whether it's from a software or hardware solution, then there's other options there. But if you're just looking for quick hard cuts and then being able to push that stream out, absolutely, you can do that.
But you did say the one limitation at this time is that you can't be telling 2 to go to a
Correct.
different preset while you have 1 selected.
Yeah, so if you're trying to control camera 1, but you want like another camera up on screen, that's going to be a limitation there. If you're showing camera 4, it's going to be controlling camera 4. So you can't control one while showing the other.
You can't have another camera go to a different preset while covering.
Yeah.
you'll actually see the move to a different
Yep.
preset. All right. Brian Dixon says, "What's up, gentlemen?"
Just hanging out, answering questions.
All right. On-screen creation says, "It would be helpful to be able to change the timeout value change on the bottom right of the display when increasing or decreasing the value using knobs. At present, it disappears within half a second."
It is quick. I do agree. It is quick. We're not trying to clutter that screen too much. So having that always on there or for longer times, especially when you're flipping through quick and changing cameras. But I do understand that it is a very quick pop-up.
So we can put that in the list, for the engineers to look at.
Mind, and we'll discuss that with engineer.
Or maybe it could be a setting, in the device. How long do you want for your timeout?
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. So we can always pitch that over.
All right. Hey, Super James also writes, "What's the benefit of using NDI versus VISCA?"
So that's really that's a protocol debate that can be its own. That could be its own call. But it really is preference. It comes down to what what the equipment you're using is. I know, especially when we talk VISCA, you get a few different flavors there in terms of control. Like I know Panasonic uses one thing, and then there's another flavor. So you get a few differences there. NDI, I think, just from a user perspective, can be super helpful, especially with all the different things they offer from a NDI suite and the tools and all the different things you can use. But it really is a preference. It's like if you like Coke or Pepsi and what you've used more. So,
well, and as a producer that's been on location, I will also say that one of the key differences is if I'm using my vMix or a TriCaster or something like that, I'm running one cable, and I'm getting both the video, the tally, and the control. Whereas if you're using VISCA, then I'm using SDI and I have to run another cable for the control.
Yeah, if you're trying to do everything on NDI or one cable, that's going to be best. This is just a control question, then it becomes preference.
Right. If you've got your video already sorted out, and it's like, well, do I need to leverage NDI just to move the camera? Is it better than VISCA? I would agree with you that I wouldn't say like, oh, it's just so much better to pan and tilt than I don't think one is really going to be that much better than the other.
Exactly. If you're trying to do everything on one, though, that's NDI.
All right. Here's a good question. When can the KBD be used to control the AI tracking on the X4 Ultra?
Right now? There's a button directly on the hardware that's going to tell you whether you want to enable AI and then confirm, which will help you choose your actual source. So the source you want to track yourself. But that's available right now on the hardware.
All right. So, and is this for all of the X series cameras?
Yeah. So it'll function with all of our cameras. All of our cameras, from a PTZ perspective, so that's X1, X1 Ultra, X4 Ultra, and X5 Ultra, have AI auto tracking built in.
Does the Max have
the Max
tracking?
Does as well.
All right, don't want to leave the Max out. It's the kind of the forgotten camera. Max is in the back of the room going, "Hey."
I love that camera. It is on the shelf, getting ready to be hooked up into the setup. So I finally got one in my hands.
All right. Let me take a break from the questions for a second to throw this back up. We're going to be kind of wrapping up here in a little bit, so I want to let everybody who wants a chance to win the BirdDog Connect subscription. And again, this is a year's subscription, not 30 days, not 15 days. This is a year. So even if you are curious about what BirdDog Connect can do, it's kind of like, it used to be called BirdDog Cloud. Now it's Connect because it actually does more things. And it's not just a cloud solution. And if you are curious and you want to check this out, you want to integrate it, I will be the first to admit I actually got a TriCaster S trial, and I think it was 30 days or something like that. And I got it, and then life happened, and I looked at the piece of paper. The next time I looked at the piece of paper, it was like, oh yeah, that ended 2 days ago. So having a year to be able to like try and dig into this and really see what you can do really does make a difference, because what you need today might not be what you need 2 months from now. Then you can be like, ooh, I have figured out a new use for this. So feel free to type in bit.ly BD entry or use your phone and scan that. And as always, if you're watching the show live, feel free to throw your questions about the KBD, or I guess any BirdDog question you might have, throw it into the comments. All right, let me take that off. Can you control the Mach-E live zooming with the KBD?
This is the easiest question for me to answer because that's my current webcam. Yeah, absolutely.
So you could technically have 3 little Mach-E lives and use the KBD.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. And then we got another one came in from barbecue sauce. Making me hungry. X1 user. Are more customizable settings coming for the AI tracking? I find the initial movement to be not very smooth currently.
Got it. Yeah. So we recently brought out a new update for X1 regarding tracking. So it has a much more in-depth suite now, reflective of what the X4 looks like. What's nice about the AI tracking being built into the cameras, unlike our previous generation, is we have the ability to change those, tweak those, and bring out new features. So that tracking is always improving. It's something our engineering team is always working on. So as firmware comes out for that, it will always be improving.
All right. So that actually answers all of the live questions, unless somebody's got one they're going to throw in the last few minutes. That actually answers all of the live questions. Hey, Cameron, I really appreciate you being here for today's show and being able to show us the KBD and answer, dozens of questions that have come in live from our audience. And oh, you know what? You even got a thank you. Glad to hear.
Beautiful.
So I am going to say thank you to you. I am going to do the drawing because we've got a few more people. Another comment given. Same as barbecue sauce, except for the P400. Hey, that's a good question. In terms of this, just to be clear for people who are interested in the KBD, it's not limited to, as we said with the ONVIF and other things like that. It's not limited to NDI cameras. It's not limited to BirdDog cameras, and it's not limited to just the X series cameras.
Correct. So you can use if you have P series cameras, you can absolutely use those with this controller. What is important to note is those 1080 cameras, 240, 200, things like that have been upgraded to Silicon 2 will show you the preview. The 4K cameras, 400 and P4K, because they don't support HX3, those won't come through as a preview, but control is still possible. So any camera that supports NDI HX3, you can do full control with and have the preview, but full NDI cameras control as well.
Now, the one, just to clarify what you said, the ones that have been upgraded to Silicon 2, you get like the full suite of camera, setup parameters as well?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to test it, but I believe that is something we were working on to make sure that is possible. So I would reach out, and we can set up a test for that as well.
So to be clear though, if it's not Silicon 2 and it doesn't do HX, you're not going to get the preview and you're not going to get the advanced control.
Correct.
Okay. And if it's a third-party camera, let's just say PTZ Optics or something like that,
yep.
And you're going to be able to control it, and you're going to get basic NDI controls, but you're not going to get the advanced like AI tracking and all this other stuff.
Yeah. We can always control, like, from just a normal PTZ perspective, any other brand's cameras. But there's always going to be certain things that are specific to us that we've added here, things like that super fine mode as well. That we just don't have any control over for the other products. But that's not to say you still can't use this KBD with them for control and things like that.
Okay, I have a question coming in, and I just want to be clear to people who are watching the show. This is not me, because you've seen me here like my hands the whole time. But the question is from Anthony B. It's not me, though. Is Mach-E Studio with the KBD redundant?
No. And for a very specific reason. Maki Studio is what I like to call a mobile switching station. So it'll allow you to do things like transitions, everything that we talked about, where if you want to make that actual live switching more professional and that kind of thing. But from a controls perspective, while you can control from the actual app itself, there isn't a joystick on the Maki Studio hardware. So if you want a hardware controller and things like AI enable and all of those other settings that come with the actual controller, doing those side by side is an absolutely valid workflow and something I've done a lot on show floors and in my own office. So one does not replace the other.
And to go back to what you said a little bit ago, it also works the opposite way because the KBD can only switch what it's looking at. You need a
Correct.
separate switcher in order to be looking at a wide shot while you're telling the close-up to zoom in. So the keyboard, the KBD, is doing the camera control of the camera you're not looking at, while
Exactly.
the switcher is looking at a different camera. So you're dividing up the two tasks. One is now just doing control, and the other one is just doing the switching.
Absolutely. And with Maki Studio, you aren't limited to that specific hard cutting that you are with something like an NDI router. We have full transition suites built into that, the T-bar, everything. So you get a lot more control from a production side with Maki Studio. And then you have your controller still doing all of that kind of camera work.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to do us for questions here today. Cameron, I really thank you for being here, for helping answer questions. I think we've had a lot of really good questions, and I'm going to let you go, but thanks again, and I'll look
Always a
forward to
pleasure.
doing a show with you again. And all of you who are watching the show, thank you again for participating. And as we talked about, we're going to give this away right now. I have lots of entries. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come down here. Is it still set up for screen share? No, it's not. So I'm going to add, we had a little bump right in the pre-show. And oh, it says I'm still sharing, but I'm not sharing. So let me stop. It's right. The screen share moved for some reason. I want this window, share, and there we go. So this is the list of entries. All right, I am going to come over here. You're going to see me do this live, and I'm doing this in front of you so that you can see. I'm not making it up. We're not giving it to someone. These are the list of people who have entered. Copy. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to switch to the wheel of names. So this is where we have the BirdDog Connect prize entry. I'm going to select all of that. I'm going to paste the names in there. And then I'm going to click to spin and then take my hands away from the controls to find out that Andreas Parginos has won. And hey, good, you have a good night there in Greece, having just won a year's worth of BirdDog Connect. So that is really cool. Congratulations, Andreas. My oldest son has been studying Greek. I ought to have him come in and tell me how to pronounce your name properly. But thank you very much for being there and participating in the giveaway. And I will forward your information over to the team at BirdDog to make sure that you get your BirdDog Connect subscription. So thank you everyone for watching today's show. I look forward to seeing you all on the next BirdDog Connect live session. Till next time.